everybody, John McClellan, ATXHotSauce.com. I'm going to show you today how to make this into a hot sauce. It's our red scorpion hot sauce. As you can see, we have our label on here, dated. It was batch 88. Referring back to my book, we know everything that we put into this batch here. Batch number 88. We'll go to that, number 88. Red scorpions, red habaneros, white onions, cloves. We've got some cardamom. We've got onions. We've got a plum in here. Actually, I have a plum in here for a little bit of sweetness too. So let's get to making the sauce. Remember, always have your book, always write down your recipes. Okay, first of all, we're gonna take the airlock off here and the lid off. Well, looking good. A little bit of calm yeast in there, but that's okay. No mold, everything looks fantastic. But you always gotta give it the smell, right? To make sure it smells good. Wow, that is absolutely a phenomenal smell. One of my favorite things. All right, so we're gonna strain some of the juice out here, some of this brine. We're still gonna leave some in though. Get a little bit more. That's probably good. In fact, I can see the fermentation weight, it's fallen all the way to the bottom. Now, one of the first things I like to do is do a pH test on the brine itself. You really want to be shelf stable. You want that pH to be below 4.5. I like to have mine down in the 3s. I'm thinking this one will probably be down about 3.4%. So we're gonna go ahead and turn this on. Got my holding solution for my pH monitor here. And let's stick this puppy in, see where we're at. So we've got a 3.1% brine, 3.1% pH. That is very acidic and it's going to be very shelf stable. It's probably one of the reasons you don't see any mold or anything really going on in here is just because that pH was so low. That's where you need it, right? Shelf stable. You can bottle this after you've stopped the fermentation process, which I'm going to show you here in a few minutes. It'll sit in the cabinet or whatever without being refrigerated for a long time. I do recommend though, once you open it up one of our sauces, that you do put it in the refrigerator. All right, I'm gonna put my brine aside here. We're gonna take our big pot, dump these vegetables right in here, and then we're gonna take the rest of it and dump it all in there too. Here goes that fermentation weight. We're gonna take that out, put it right here. And as you can see, we've got some turmeric in here. This basically just dissolved. What I like to do is take a little bit of the brine, wash it around in there, because I don't want to lose a lot of that flavor that's there. This is actually a little bit of that apricot and the turmeric together. So we're gonna pour that in. All right, not too much brine. Now we have our sauce and we've got to blend it. So typically I use a blender for this. I've got a new toy though. Let me go grab my new toy and show you what I got. Say hello to my little friend, the Immersion blender. If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up. I've sanitized this and we're gonna use it to blend all of our veggies and fruits together in here. Careful with these, they can be pretty powerful. Now that's how you blend something. You can use a smaller immersion blender. You can use a just a real powerful blender if you have one at home too. Just make sure you give it extra time to blend all that, crush up some of those seeds. I like to strain mine. Some people don't like to strain. Sometimes I'll do half strained, half with some of the mash inside of it. This one we're probably gonna do all strain though. A lot of times people here at this point, they also add vinegar to it. This one would do an apple cider vinegar, and they'll probably put some xanthan gum in it also to thicken it up. I don't like to add the xanthan gum until I have it on the stove, where we're gonna heat it up to about 145 for about 15 minutes to stop the fermentation process, basically pasteurizing it so it doesn't keep fermenting in the bottle. That's the last thing you need. You don't want to open a bottle up that's been fermenting and it's going to explode everywhere like a volcano. But we are going to taste this right now to see how it is. It probably is going to need a little bit of vinegar just for that tart, and I'm probably going to add a little bit more of the brine that we've reserved. All right, let's taste it. Smells good. It's spicy. You know, the great thing about the scorpion pepper, especially the fermentation process, is that when you taste it, that sauce, you have different areas on your tongue that do different things. This is kind of a front of the tongue and side of the tongue, not back. But what that fermentation process does is kind of calm everything down, blend all those other veggies that were in there with it. And that heat, although it comes pretty quickly, it dissipates pretty quickly too, which is what I like. That's good. I think we're gonna add a little bit of apple cider vinegar. A little apple cider vinegar. It's spicy, by the way. A little apple cider vinegar and a little bit more of the brine to make it a little bit more watery before we strain it. So hold on one second. All right, I got a cup of apple cider vinegar. We're gonna add that in. And we're gonna do another cup of the brine that we have reserved left over. Here it is right here. I would do it to taste. It doesn't have to be exact. It's not like baking. We're gonna add that brine in there too. Always clean as you go. Your spouse will like that if you clean everything up. And we're gonna give it a little bit more blend on my toy here. Now, one of the reasons we're going to add xanthan gum in a few minutes too is we've added this vinegar in there, and if you bottle it without putting the little xanthan gum, it's going to make it look real watery, and you'll probably also have some separation in the bottle. So there's other ways to get around that, but they're very time consuming. I just like putting a little bit of xanthan gum after we do the straining, which is next. All right guys, now we're gonna do the straining. I just like to get a pot, and we're gonna get a strainer that fits right over the top of it, and we're gonna take our luscious mixture here, which is already looking great, and we're gonna put it in. Just get some of those seeds out, some of that pulp. You know, we talked about this in other videos, those red Fresnos have a very thick pulp on them. The scorpions don't, so if you made a sauce with just the red scorpion peppers, I don't even know if you'd have to strain it, but because we have a lot of these red Fresnos in here with that thick outer membrane, that skin, you definitely have to do this. And we're just gonna do that. And one of the things I would recommend too is don't throw the mash away, the pulp away. You can actually use your like dehydrator and make a great dehydrate it, blend it up, put a little salt in it, make a nice little spicy salt rub for other things that you're cooking around the house. I find a ladle is the best thing to use. Some people use like a spatula, something like that. I like the ladle because it's curved just like the basket itself, the strainer, and you can just take it here and spin it around and get all those juices out. It works really, really good. Check that out. Then, you know, once that starts to fill up, you want to have something else to put it in. Remember, don't throw that away. I would definitely dehydrate it. Dehydrate it, put it in a blender, mash it all up. Be careful, it'll create some dust that's very spicy. Then add some salt to it. Do like maybe 2-to-1 salt to the dried pepper mash. Makes for a fantastic seasoning later on. This red sauce gets everywhere sometimes when you're making it, so make sure you're wearing dark clothes, not white clothes. All right, now this is key. You've got to stop the fermentation, right? So that's why we're going to heat it over low heat, get it to about 145 for about 15, maybe 20 minutes, basically like a pasteurization. That's going to stop the fermenting process. You don't want to bottle this like it is. You hand it out to your friends, a couple weeks later, they go into their cabinet, they open it up, and literally it's an explosion of some of the hottest stuff. It's in your eyes, it's in your face, it's on the walls, it's on everything. Don't want to do that. You got to stop the fermentation. All right, now before we put it on the stove and stop that fermentation process, this is where I like to add the xanthan gum. Remember, I don't put the xanthan gum in before I strain it. It just makes it harder to strain, but it is pretty watery. And I don't want the vinegar to separate either. So you saw my big monster immersion tool. Well, they make little baby ones too. This is what I like to use for the xanthan gum. The xanthan gum, we're going to use 1 teaspoon for this entire amount here. I like to sprinkle it on the top. This is a 1/2 teaspoon here. We'll get that all blended up. And while we're blending, I'm going to add the other half teaspoon. That done. If you have one of these white things, I highly recommend washing it off soon after you do the sauce or it just turns red. All right, we got the xanthan gum in there. We blended it all up. Now we're gonna put it on the stove, low heat, bring it up to about 145 for about 15 or 20 minutes, stop that fermentation process. Then we're gonna go to bottling. All right, babe, this is my favorite part. Putting it in the bottle, putting the labels on. This is the fun part. You actually get to taste it, put it on food. I have a preference to these 5-ounce Woozy bottles. They seem to do good. We'd get your labels on there, get the shrink wraps on them. But you can have fun. You can do different size bottles. We're gonna do a different size bottle here today. So we've heated this up to about 145 for about 15, 20 minutes to kill off that fermentation process. You don't want these bottles blowing up before you open, or especially after you open them when you're standing around. So let's get to it. We've sanitized all this stuff. We've cleaned and sanitized it. A little Star San. We're gonna start with this one right here. And this is a hot liquid. You know, it's about that 140, 145 still. And we're gonna take it, we're gonna put it right in here. Now remember, the liquid's hot, so it's expanded. So you wanna make sure that you fill it right to the top, because it will shrink down a little bit. All right, and there's one of our bottles there. All right, now let's get a paper towel. We have to clean these off a little bit, but that's okay. Just make sure if you get this on your fingers that you wash your hands very well. And I probably wouldn't put contacts in, rub your eyes, or go to the bathroom for the next couple of hours. Up to you, personal preference. All right, now one of the things that we're gonna put, if you take the pulp out and it's just a liquid, I like to put these little spouts on it here. Get that lid on, check that out, beautiful. Gorgeous. All right, let's put those labels on. Make sure you get the bottles dry before you put them on there. I like to put them down on a little bit of paper towel so they don't roll around too much. Depends on the labels, Avery.com, there's different label makers out there. You know, I tried printing these from home for a long time. The ink is just not as good and it tends to rub off. So my recommendation, whatever service you're using for your labels, I would go ahead and just have them actually do the labels for you, print it there. Okay. There you have it, the Red Scorpion. I hope you try it. Check out our website, atxhotsauce.com. We actually have some of these for sale right now. You can check it out. We got gift boxes with 4 different sauces in them. Check us out for more videos. See you next time.